Hello everyone, welcome to the GeoEcologist. I'm Dr. Krishnanand and you're watching our rapid revision series for preliminary UPSC examination 2024. And this particular series is in collaboration with our collaborators, the Shield IS, who have prepared this material which you are sharing online. And now today is the second lecture that we are going to learn. Now in this lecture also we are going to look into certain aspects from climatology and related topics which are going to be important in upcoming examination. So watch the video till the end with a pen and paper definitely, and please do share these videos for maximum outreach to the UPSC aspirants. So now let's begin and learn. So important information first that this series is going to continue with every day at 9 p.m. prime time. And remember, if you want to look into the other courses by Shield IS, you can go to the website shieldis.in where all the information is provided. Also, the link is given in description, and our Telegram link for download of this study material is also given in description. So you can go to our Telegram channel and download this study material. Now let's focus on our discussion, which is on climate protection. So remember, every year there is one question or two questions definitely related directly or indirectly to climate change, because which is part of the world debate today. So one thing that is important here to look into all the protocols and conventions that have happened since 1972 Stockholm. So if you don't know the sequence, or if you want to learn, we have a video on our YouTube channel itself where all the sequences of all environmental conferences, protocols and conventions have been given. I'll be giving the link in the description for a quick revision for you all. Now coming to the point here in climate change, what are the important things to look into? That Earth's average temperature is about 15 degrees C, which has been much higher and lower in the past. Now, what is important here is natural fluctuation is not bothering us. Important is what is the rise in less time. So what is important here? Less time and more rise. So if you observe less time and more rise, this relationship is what is bothering us, this rise in quick succession. And because of the greenhouse gas emissions, our atmosphere is warming, as we know. Now, looking into the other aspects here, so readings are given here. Solar energy radiating back to space from Earth's surface is absorbed by greenhouse gases. So that I'm sure you all know it already. And the heat which is retained by these greenhouse gases is the problem that we're talking about. And remember, climate change or global warming is being talked about in world scenario as well as in local scenario now. So from global to local, the phenomena is visible. And remember, the major agent of change is this water vapor. People keep talking about greenhouse gases, but I'm not seeing much of reference for water vapor. Remember, water vapor is a big driver of climatic changes, especially anomalies across the globe. So because it has latent heat, and you should look into the latent heat by water vapor. And carbon dioxide, however, persists for much longer, but there are others as well. So since industrial revolution 1750 onwards, if you observe, there is 30% rise, and that's what is killing us, right? So methane and nitrous oxides are the other ones. And what is important here, how will climate change affect us? So every system in ecology is going to get affected. That's why we say geography and environment are interlinked. If you observe, in geography, climatology is there, and in environment and ecology, we also study ecosystem and productivity. So ecosystem productivity is going to get rampant, and fresh water shortage, we are already facing it in several urban ecosystems at least, and the ability to produce food, number of deaths that's increasing from floods, storms, heat waves. So overall, the entire ecosystem is on the verge of collapse if we are not looking to control these greenhouse gas emissions. So you look into the intensity of rainfall, that's also very detrimental at many places. The risk of drought is extremely severe. If you have observed the African and sub-Saharan African drought situation, and flooding is happening in those areas where flood never used to happen. So this is where poor and vulnerable communities and countries are going to face it. So WHO says that health of millions could be threatened by increase in diseases, malaria, waterborne diseases, malnutrition, and it's already happening around us, right? Coming to IPCC, if there is a question related to the IPCC, the organization itself, it's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. I'm sure you all have heard before. And international body for assessment of climate change. Now, what's the major function? These two things, remember: scientific information provision to people and technical guidance to UN. right? So this is UNFCCC that you see here, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It is providing technical assistance and scientific information. And remember, Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, all these things are there, very important here. And now look here, this particular organization, which has currently 195 members here, right? And remember, this is part of the body which has WMO as well as United Nations here. So if you observe in 1988, WMO, World Meteorological Organization, and United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, together formed IPCC, right? So this is why assessment reports of IPCC are always valued, and it talks about climate change, its causes, impacts, response, and not just that much, but special reports also look into specific case studies, right? And new research and synthesis is going on. So IPCC reports are very important. Come to greenhouse effect and greenhouse gases. So basic understanding is that it's a group of gases that absorb heat. I'm sure you know it. And H2O, that is water vapor, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. These are the four which are most important. But remember the six ones covered under Kyoto Protocol, the six main greenhouse gases which are going to be important. So here is carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, and sulfur hexafluoride. Remember these six, right? That's important. Now, what are the sources and causes? There could be one MCQ here, right? So if there is a MCQ here, what is it? Carbon dioxide is burning of fossil fuels and deforestation. Methane is paddy cultivation, and animal excreta, cattle and other livestock. So remember, which countries would produce this? Primary agrarian countries, right? So termites, burning of fossil fuel, wood, landfills, wetlands, remember, all developing and underdeveloped countries. So methane is actually not a developed world problem, it's an underdeveloped world problem. And nitrous oxides, burning of fossil fuels, fertilizer, burning of wood, crop residue, then crop residue burning every year in India. There is a news about it. Remember that, stubble burning. And hydrofluorocarbon, HFCs, refrigerants, aerosol propellants, solvents, retardants. Then perfluorocarbons, you have byproduct in aluminum production. So remember, wherever is aluminum industry and manufacturing of semiconductors, their perfluorocarbons emission is more. And sulfur hexafluoride, SF6, which is a tracer gas for leak detection used in electrical transmission equipments. So these are the list here covered under Kyoto Protocol. Remember it. Then there is another thing called carbon credit and how this is being done. So carbon credit is basically a tradable permit or a certificate that provides the holder of the credit the right to emit 1 ton of carbon dioxide or an equivalent of another greenhouse gas. Now this is like a credit. So if you have got credits, you can use the credits, right? You can sell your credits. So main goal of this creation of carbon credits is reduction of emissions of carbon dioxide and awareness creation. So carbon credits are market mechanisms for minimization of greenhouse gas emissions. Now this is since Kyoto Protocol that it was ratified, and here sale of credit surpluses may be used to subsidize future projects. So suppose I am a developing country and I have got 100 credits and I have only used 20 of my credits and 80 plus I am in surplus. So I'll sell this to the country that needs it, and in return, I'll get some future project. That's how it is being traded. This is called carbon trading. So two types of credits are there. Remember, this is called VER, voluntary emissions reduction, a carbon offset that is exchanged in the over the counter or voluntary market for credits, and certified emissions reduction is called CER. So VER and CER. So it's emission units of credits created through regulatory framework. And remember, these regulatory frameworks are very important here. So trading credits can be traded on both private as well as public market, and prices of the credits can fluctuate. That's also there as per the market. And certified emission reduction, CERs, are the only product that can be used as investments in the credits. And remember, CERs are sold by special carbon funds. This is important here. Special carbon funds established by large financial institutions and where investors can work out. Now, if you look into the special exchange that's specialize in trading of the credits, it includes European Climate Exchange. Then you have Nasdaq OMAX, which is Commodities Europe Exchange, and European Energy Exchange. These are some of the financial institutions which are doing the carbon credits and transfer. Now look here, CO2 budget. So if you observe, these are the remaining budget here, and this is the yellow color which is showing the budget already we have used. So now if you observe, in next 30 years we have the time to actually achieve what we have targeted. But if you are not doing this, then you are moving the earth above 2 degrees. So this is our budget which is explained here. Now what is important? In Germany, German citizens cause an average of 10 tons of CO2 per capita year. And if you observe, only 1 ton of CO2 per person and years is acceptable in terms of climate protection target. So these are some of the things which are there mentioned. And come to methane, which is going to be part of some question definitely in future. So methane is a hydrocarbon that is primary component of natural gas. So methane is second most abundant anthropogenic greenhouse gas after carbon dioxide, accounting for 20% of global emissions, and methane is more than 25 times as potent, right? So it's 25 times stronger than CO2, but because it's short-lived, people don't compare it to CO2. But biggest methane emitters, if you observe, so China leads the chart, then you have USA, then Russia, India is in fourth position, then you use Brazil, Indonesia, Nigeria, Mexico, right? And then further, remember, China is a coal-producing country where maximum methane is being produced. Russia emits from natural gas and oil systems, and largest sources of methane emission from human activities where USA are oil and gas systems, livestock, fermentation, and landfill sites. So this is important. Now, carbon capture and storage technology. From technology, there can be a question in science and tech section as well, or also in ecology and environment section. So world is looking towards renewable energy, and more than 1.3% to a record of more than 33 billion tons CO2 is already hitting historic high. So Global CCS Institute claims CO2 emissions from fossil fuel combustion in the energy sector contribute 30%, right? But remember, very important here is mentioned, renewable energy presents a possible solution, but its ability to cater to the world's power demand, which is expected to rise by 50% by 2030. So according to UK's Carbon Capture and Storage Association, this is called CCSA, is up for debate now, right? So CCSA is in news, it's in debate, and there could be something related to that, a question. So Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has estimated that without CCS, the cost of trying to meet global climate change goals will increase by almost 140%. Right. So what is this CCS? Let's understand. Carbon capture storage technology. So how are we going to store this carbon? So remember, capturing up to 90% of the CO2 emissions proved by burning fossil fuels to generate electricity. And how it is done? So you can use the underground, rock systems where you have a cap rock and there is a particular reservoir or an old mine if there it is there, deep saline aquifers. It can be depleted oil and gas reservoirs, right? Or if you have some porous rock where, remember, this is there. So some injection can be done underground, and here carbon storage or sequestration can be done. These are important ones here. And some example, if you want to look into, this is here. So Slipner project. Remember, this Slipner project is associated with carbon storage facility, right, in North Sea area, right? And then you see Gorgon project in Western Australia. So remember these two projects here, right? This could be important for coming examination. It is related to carbon sequestration, right? And what you observe here further, capturing CO2. So there could be one at pre-combustion capture. So pre-combustion systems have to be developed, right? So here gasification or reforming techniques, that is blend of hydrogen and CO2 using processes, are supposed to be used. So British engineering firm Costain is looking to convert this, right? Solid, liquid or gaseous fuel into blend of hydrogen and CO2. So this is before you actually emit, you actually convert it. Then it is post combustion capture. So after it is combustible, it's done. So what you do, CO2 can be separated using high pressure membrane filtration in cryogenic environment, or we say very cold environment. That's important here. Now, oxy-fuel combustion. So oxy-fuel combustion is basically oxygen is separated from air before combustion, with fuel then being combusted in oxygen using recycled fuel gas, you can observe. And then transportation is very important here. So how would you, transport it? So transporting CO2 involves some, similar techniques as used for oil and natural gas, that is road tankers, ships, and pipelines, right? Now, CCSA says there is a significant potential for development of local regional CCS pipeline infrastructure leading to CCS cluster making. So we have to create CCS clusters, and then we have to store. So there are some structural storages like, rock cap and others that we saw in the diagram, which can be used, or some, saline formations, porous rocks filled with salt water, and many other areas where it can be injected into the depleting oil fields or coal fields. but it has to be taken care that nothing is being leaked out. So leakage issue could be there as a potential. Coming to UNFCCC, right? So what is it? United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, International Environment Treaty, opened for signature in 1992, and since 94 it is in force, and the headquarters is in Bonn, Germany. But carefully, legally non-binding, guys. Remember this is legally non-binding. So basically it's for negotiating, it's for actually looking into awareness creations, stabilizing greenhouse gas concentrations across the annex countries. So there are many annex countries, and then they have debates, right? Now come to RED, REDD and REDD plus. So reducing emissions from deforestation in developing countries, right? And then plus is added to it. So this is something which is important from Bali Action Plan 2007, COP13 meet, right? So here sustainable management of forests, conservation of forest carbon and enhancement of forest carbon stocks are important. And RED plus is also looking towards the vehicle to financially reward developing countries. So if you're doing well, you'll be rewarded financially. This is RED plus. Now come to ozone layer, ozone depletion. Since 1985, we have been talking about it. So two facets, if you observe carefully, the stratospheric ozone and the local ozone that is created. So ground level ozone is a big problem if you observe here, and ozone and oxygen molecules are constantly being formed, destroyed and reformed in the ozone layer. But the problem is the ozone holes, right? So ozone holes have been there in the news. Now what happens here is the catch here, Antarctic ozone hole, right? And here CFC molecule, which is producing chlorine monoxide, leading to the depletion of ozone. So chlorine is the problem here, guys. So during dark winter, aerosols as a vortex, remember the polar vortex with a very low temperature causing icy clouds to form. Now, reaction on the surface of these icy cloud particles release chlorine from chemical compounds like CFCs and others, and this destroys ozone. So remember this chlorine thing, remember this very importantly. Now, what is the thing? How can we solve? So right from Montreal Protocol, 1985, 86, 87, and then since we have been talking about it, so Montreal Protocol was the first one looking into ozone depleting substances, ODS, right? Now, climate finance. So something from climate finance could be potentially a question. So remember what we have done since Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement, we have created GEF, right? So what we have is the funding, investments, right, for mitigation measures. So for their things are important here. So if you observe here, Paris Agreement, right? Since then, we have been looking into the transparency, we have been looking into the arguments related to investment and mobilization of support, right? So financial mechanism is Global Environment Facility, GEF, right? And at COP16 in 2010, parties established this GCF, Green Climate Fund, and in 2011, it was designated an open entity. So now what you observe, in addition to providing guidance to GEF and GCF, parties have two special funds as well, Special Climate Change Fund, SCCF, and Least Developed Countries, LDCF fund as well, right? And there is another thing called Adaptation Fund as well under Kyoto Protocol 2001. So remember these important, Special Climate Change Funds, Least Developed Countries Fund, Adaptation Fund, GCF, GEF, all these are important terminologies for us to look into. So take a quick revision, take a quick reading, and they have four specific functions here, right? So SCF, if you observe, has four functions. There could be one MCQ here as well in potential, right? So assisting COP, Conference of Parties, improving coherence and coordination, right? Assisting COP in rationalization of financial mechanism, mobilization of financial resources, and of course, measurement, reporting, and verification. So these are the important things here. Now, if you look into something like Cancun Agreement, developed country parties committed in the context of meaningful mitigation that they are going to do this mobilization of $100 billion per year by 2020. So this is important. That's why Cancun Agreement is important in terms of climate finance. Now, coming to here, what is finance portal? You can just take a reading here. And remember, I have given the link to this particular document here in our Telegram group. So you can go there and read it, right? And then take a look into this. Coming to the next important concept is green building. Now, this is under a lot of news, right? It's creating a lot of stirs around the world. So green building could be one area where you can get a question. So if you observe, it's a sustainable lifestyle building, highly efficient in resource uses and majorly energy efficient, right? How much energy is this building consuming, right? So this is very important here. So if you observe, it has an alternative source for electricity like solar, right? Then building with trees, then you have metallite colored roofing. So light colored roofing is important, alternative energy source, solar panel everywhere. And then you have the monoxide alarm as well. So you can look into these particular kinds of buildings which are, part of news. Now, green building certifying agencies could be one area. Who certifies a green building? So here is LEED India. Remember this. LEED is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. LEED, International Recognized Certification System, right? So it's LEED India Green Building Rating System is an international benchmark for the design. Right now, this is important here, provided by IGBC, right? And Indian Green Building Council. So IGBC ratings are very important here. Indian Green Building Council, IGBC, gives policy initiatives and master planning. So remember the green infrastructures, the platinum rating is very important here. In 2001, this was established, CII, IGBC. So IGBC has come out with net zero energy buildings, and this is very important, and World Green Building Council and United States Agency for International Development, USAID, right? So these are looking towards the betterment in terms of urban infrastructure creation. And BECBC, remember this Energy Conservation Building Code, ECBC, established by Indian Bureau of Energy Efficiency, B. So that's why BECBC. And Terry Griha. So green rating for integrated habitat assessment is Griha, and is a national rating system for green buildings that is adopted while designing and evaluating new buildings, right? Coming to GRAP, and you have heard this in terms of National Capital Region. So here the GRAP action is Graded Response Action Plan, approved by Supreme Court in 2016. GRAP is an emergency measure when pollution levels are really, really high, from poor to very poor, severe stage. So Delhi NCR has this GRAP plan, and it was notified in 2017, and it has led to fixing accountability and deadlines for, doing things and reducing the air pollution levels. So actions under GRAP, if you observe here, so severe plus or emergency, stop entry of trucks into Delhi only for essential commodities, stop construction activities around Delhi NCR, and then you have here, PM 2.5 over 300 and or PM 10 over 500, then task force to decide any additional steps, and then you have look into private vehicles and, mobilizing support in terms of local awareness, and also in severe case you have close brick lanes, right? You have to reduce the emissions from brick lanes or stone crushers. And if you observe, Delhi NCR has a lot of these activities happening, infrastructural development in very poor, stop uses of diesel generator, and some things like this, moderate to poor, heavy fines on garbage burning. So these are some of the things. And firecrackers, every year you observe there is a strict enforced ban on firecrackers, although people are not actually looking towards this in that particular way. And blue sky and clean air, now this is also very important here. So air quality index, AQI, right? So South Asia is actually looking towards 2 billion people under world's 10th most polluted cities, including Delhi, right? And major pollutants are SO2 and NOx. Remember these two, right? So these are very important, and health hazards are there: lung cancer, cardiovascular disorders, respiratory ailments, and mental health issues as well. So some efforts are here listed, like for example, you say Pusa decomposer, right? So many NGOs are looking towards pioneering these solutions like decomposers, and IARI, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, is looking towards employment of biotechnology to look into agricultural pollution. And GRAP 3, Graded Rapid Action Plan, monitoring air quality, green war rooms have been constructed, things are happening, right? So these are some initiatives. Now, viable solutions, if you observe, so acknowledging the existence of air pollution, primary step, and then looking into solutions and actions, activities. Now, success stories are also here. So you can read these success stories. Carbon efficient farming has been done, right? Many places are there where, prioritizing human health, environment, sustainability is there. Looking into UNESCO initiatives, so internal carbon tax on all flight tickets, World Air Quality Project is there, allows residents to make informed decisions by real-time air quality data. So all these things are happening. Youngsters around the world are taking charge of environmental advocacy, clean air for schools. And then you look into sustainable development goals. So clean air to breathe is very important, and absence of specific sustainable development goal is actually being talked about amongst the community. Right now, September 7th, the International Day for Clean Air for Blue Skies, is also listed, right? So this is for today, and then we meet further tomorrow to discuss more topics. So these topics are going to be really, really important. Something from either from the financial aspect of climate change or from mitigation aspect of climate change, you can guess is going to come in the upcoming examination. So we'll see you then tomorrow. Please share these videos with maximum aspirants in your circle. Best wishes. Take care.